In today's video, I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to easily grind doubloons in Adopt Me as the summer event is coming to a close. Of course, some ways can give you more doubloons than others, but every way to grind doubloons is vital to get your favourite pets from this event. A little bit of a disclaimer, there may be some lag and bad quality in this video as my computer is dying at the moment, meaning that I'm having to do videos at the moment on my phone. Obviously, some games I can do in private servers, others I cannot, so some scenes may be laggier than others, so please watch with caution. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the video.
We're beautiful like diamonds in the sky. Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a...
So there are several mini games and other little ways that you are able to grind doubloons in this event, and we're going to start off with the first mini game that was introduced to this summer event, which was the Treasure Defense. This is a game where you throw objects at the kelp pirates as well as their bows, and if they get too close to the treasure, you have to kill them. So how do you get the max 3,450 doubloons from this mini game? First of all, I recommend playing this in a private server as there will be less boats for you to worry about. Another tip is whilst the boats are throwing their anchors onto the area, go release the pirate which is down where the ladder is, as it can help you fight back against the pirates. Another thing I recommend to do as well is learning how much damage the objects do. What I mean is an anvil will do way more damage than a coconut, so rather than just throwing an anvil on a boat that's almost destroyed, use it on a boat that's just arrived and use other objects instead. You can also see what the next objects are going to be from the two piles, so make sure you throw objects with consideration. Of course, the pirates may get onto the area and run for the treasure, but if a boat is almost destroyed, destroy it instead, as this will then get rid of the kelp pirates that came with it. Of course, if you need to defend the treasure, then go for it, as if the kelp pirates steal even a single coin, you will lose the 250 bonus doubloons from getting a proper victory. I recommend also standing near the bottom of the stairs so that if they get past you, there's still time to kill them before they get to the treasure, but once you've battled to your heart's content, those 3,450 doubloons are yours. On to the next minigame. Another minigame that was introduced was the Cannonball minigame. This minigame consisted of you shooting bombs at ships and sinking them or knocking down the Kraken to give you bonus points. My first tip again is to be in a private server. Obviously in a public server the points are combined, but you need to get a lot more points, so it's easier just to do it by yourself. My second tip is to shoot the bombs a couple seconds before an object goes in front of where the cannon is, because when you fire them there's a little bit of a delay, so if you shoot one as somebody is going past, you might miss it. Another tip of mine is to shoot a couple ships until the Kraken shows up and then aim for the Kraken. As I said earlier, the Kraken gives bonus points, and if you're in a private server by yourself, you'll only need a total of 150 points to get the max amount of 3,450 doubloons. Obviously, you also need to make sure that you have enough points even after you've knocked down the Kraken, so if you don't have enough points, you can easily just go for the Kraken's tentacles, as they don't move and still give you the same amount of points as if you knocked down the moving ship. And there you are, with enough points, you will get the max amount of 3,450 doubloons. Now for the final minigame, a minigame that is a little bit optional. The Sink a Ship minigame. Sink a Ship was another minigame that was introduced, and you're able to play this minigame whenever you want. What I mean by this is that there's no time limit, so you can easily go teleport to a Sink a Ship server and start grinding doubloons. Just to make it clear though, even though these tips can work at the same time, you still need to have a team that cooperates with you and works well together, so you may not win all the time, but even if you do lose, you still get a good amount of doubloons. Another thing I want to make clear as well is that each round will be a different length. It can be as long or as short as people make it, but don't worry, if you get a little amount of doubloons, as it may be a shorter round, the longer the rounds give more. So you might do a couple quick rounds, but that will add up to the total of the doubloons you'll get in the long round. But how can you easily win this minigame? There are two ways to play this minigame: shoot cannonballs to sink your opponent's ship, or go for the treasure. But let's start with the cannonballs. In total, there are 4 piles of cannonballs around your ship, but I recommend getting rid of the ones on the top deck first, so that if anyone knocks you off later, you can get the ones below deck, meaning there's a lower chance of you being knocked off as the ship's protecting you, and they might even shatter their sword before they can. Even if they try to knock you off though, you can still try press the cannon, as you may be able to put the bombs inside it still. I recommend not jumping, as it's more likely you'll get thrown off further, because normally it flies you into the air, as well as having your back against the wall would be really good on some places of the ship so you don't get knocked off. However, if you do end up getting knocked off, I recommend to run to the water as fast as you can, as this is going to teleport you back onto your ship straight away. It may be random places every time, but this will give you a higher chance of quickly getting back to shooting the cannons. Obviously, when people knock you off, it can be considered camping, but I see it as a strategy. So if the other team are shooting cannons and your boat is about to sink, I recommend trying to stop some of them and knock them off, so this may give your team the opportunity to either sink their ship or get the treasure. I also recommend that when you get the cannons, which are below the ship at the very end, I recommend jumping off from the plank downwards, as it may take longer to walk all the way around, so this will be quicker and you'll be able to sink the other team's ship quicker. Of course, you also have the chat where you can communicate with your team, so if you need to ask them or tell them to help with the cannons or something, they may be able to do so. But of course, everyone plays in their own way, so the cannons can be whatever you want them to be, but the treasure is one of the strats that could be the quickest, but also the hardest. What I mean is that it can be very irritating when the other team knock you away from the treasure and they pick up the treasure and then you go back for the treasure and it's a back and forth thing, but in the end, it's worth it if your team gets both pieces of treasure. One of my tips is to try get the treasure straight away if that's what you're going for rather than the cannons, as at the start of a game, most teams focus on the cannons, so they may be distracted and you may be able to get one piece of treasure already. Another strategy I have is that whether your team or the other team is about to put a bit of treasure in their ship, I recommend going up to the stone where the treasure normally is, as it will immediately place another bit of treasure and you'll be able to take that bit of treasure and hopefully go to your ship. Another thing I recommend is making sure you have a bodyguard or you are the bodyguard, as when you have the treasure, you're quite defenseless. So this means in this scenario, the bodyguard will be crucial so that they can knock away people whilst you bring the treasure back to your ship. I also recommend trying to stop the other team if they have the treasure in their boat by pulling the lever and knocking them into the water in their ship to try and stop them if they're very close to winning. As I said earlier, this can depend whether your team cooperates with you or you ask them to do something and they do it or not, but in the end, if you have a very good team, you'll be able to win this minigame quite easily. Personally, I think the sink a ship minigame is probably the best, as you can easily get about 40,000 doubloons in an hour, depending if you win a lot more than you lose, but this contrasts the normal 20,000 doubloons you will get in an hour for doing the minigames every 10 minutes. Obviously, you're not guaranteed to get many doubloons, it depends what strategies you do, it depends whether your team cooperates well with you, but in the end, you should be able to get a lot of doubloons from this minigame. My final tip for this minigame though is that if the other team is close to sinking, focus on the cannons, but if your team is close to sinking, then focus on the treasure, so that you make your focus on the option that is going to get your team the win, rather than, for example, shooting cannons when your ship is really low compared to the other team's ship. But is there any other way besides the minigames to also grind doubloons? Well, there is. Another way to get doubloons is from doing the task. There's a Buckamere Band and the beach storyline one, which I forgot what it's called. I might put it up on the screen though, but these tasks may be small and they might not show up too often, but they give you 250 doubloons every task. But I recommend doing them as they give you doubloons, so you might as well, but I also recommend having multiple pets, or if you use ults, or even take care of your friends' pets as well, as you may be able to get more doubloons from doing the task. I also recommend playing as a baby, as you will also get the task compared to if you're an adult. As I said, these tasks are quite small, but if you have 2 pets as well as yourself, that is an easy 750 doubloons. Another tiny way to get more doubloons is from the treasure chest. Even though you're not guaranteed to get the doubloons from every single chest, over half of the chests contain doubloons, so I do recommend that you get some of the chests, as you could get a total of this many doubloons per day. Obviously, it depends whether you can spend 550 bucks to get every single chest as well, but at the end of the day, you can also go onto the balloons to get 1 free key, so you can also save 550 bucks. In addition to these balloons, they also give you 100 doubloons each, and they reset every Adopt Me day, which is every 10 minutes, so obviously they may not be as much as what you might get from the tasks or the mini games, but I recommend getting the balloons as they may be vital for your doubloon grinding. The final way you can grind doubloons is the AFK zone. Even though this is something that not many people use, as they may not have their devices on all night, I do recommend having it on some nights, as it can come very useful for when you're saving up doubloons. You get 25 doubloons every 15 seconds, meaning you can get 100 doubloons in a minute. This means you can get about 6,000 doubloons within an hour, and if you're AFK for a good couple hours, that is some easy doubloons to get for doing nothing. Of course, this is optional, but if you're able to use it, I do recommend it, even if it's 5 minutes a day. And that is all the ways you can grind doubloons in Adopt Me. Hopefully this video helped some of you, but obviously I know some people are going to prefer other mini games over others, so I'm not saying, oh, just because the Sink a Ship mini game gives you the most doubloons you have to do it. You can still do whatever you want to do, as long as you're having fun and enjoying your time playing Adopt Me. But either way, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, I'd appreciate if you left a like and subscribe with notifications not to miss any other videos. My socials will also be linked below, and comment below whether you found this video useful or what mini games you prefer to play in Adopt Me during this summer event. As I said earlier, personally I think the Sink a Ship mini game is the best, as it gives you the most amount of doubloons in a limited amount of time, but obviously if you guys want to play Treasure Defense, or if you want to just go to the AFK zone, you are free to do so. Of course, as I said as well, sorry about the lag and everything, but to be honest, doing this video or doing any sort of video on mobile is quite a challenge to me, and I think I've done quite well considering my limitations at this current moment in time. But before I start ranting, I'm gonna need to still continue to grind to get enough doubloons so that I can finish off getting my goal and then doing my my spending video tomorrow. But as I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you all in the next one. So I love you all, and goodbye.